Hello, you beautiful people, you gorgeous humans. Hello, it's me, it's Jeronimoh. We are here to talk about Pluto Shift. What actually inspired this song was a song by an artist that I really love by the name of Victor Ruiz. And he came to South Africa, and during that time, I discovered that Pluto is moving into Aquarius this year. That's why I chose the sound of Pluto, because I was like, cool, how can we incorporate Pluto into the song? So that's why we've got this sound. Very cool. I love this sound. I really like this sound. I think it's very cool. And then what I did was I took portions of that sound to make this clip here. And that happened by chance. It happened by a luck. And that's what informed the bass line. Right? And they complement each other beautifully. Listen. Also, I wanted to give this atmospheric feeling of Pluto. I wanted to give it a groove so that it's not just a static sound, which is why I added this white noise. What it does, ultimately, every time it hits, it triggers the volume fader of the sound it's sitting in, and that's what gives it this feeling. And it gives it like such a cool groove. This sound informed a lot about the song. It informed kind of the groove, it informed the bass line, it informed the dark feeling. Let's keep it moving. These drums were very much informed by the song Wait and Think by Victor Ruiz, who is one of the OG techno heads. He's an absolute techno head, an absolute fiend. He makes great music, and seeing his show and just being there at Halo and during the time, it was just super inspiring. You will hear, let's solo out the kick and this cowbell for now. So how I made it was like, I literally went and grabbed the kick drum from his song because I really liked it, this kick layer. Like you can see, I've edited the shit out of it, but that is, I basically resampled his kick just to kind of keep parts of the song alive. That is a kick that I found that like is quite close to the song. You'll hear it's like quite a old sounding techno kick. It's quite like lo-fi, which is usually not the kind of sound that I use, but I really liked it because it sounded quite close to the original kick, right, of the original track. And then I grabbed a cowbell, and you can see that there is a bunch of layers, right? So I found a cowbell that I liked. I then found another one that I liked, and I layered again from the Wait and Think track. And I pitched it and edited it just to make it fit for my track. So you'll hear this is kind of what makes the whole drums. And I built the rest of the drums based off of this. Using like old school techno feeling samples, right? Like you can hear in that clap. It's like techno from the 90s, sort of like late 90s, early 2000s. Standard sort of like on-beat hats, off-beat hats, just giving like a nice, simple groove, right? Like that's what I wanted. I wanted to keep my drums quite simple for this one. There's this guy. Glitchy feeling, sort of also like in that dark techno realm. Also that glitchy feeling is reminiscent of like a space station or something, right? Like, you know, keeping sort of with that sort of spacey theme, which I quite like. Okay, these bongos, as you can see, I muted them because they didn't quite fit into the mix. But you'll notice that I unmuted them here because I really like them. I wanted to retain them. It's such a cool bongo loop. And what I did was I ultimately duplicated this layer, put it there, and I pitched it down just to give it some beef. And then this is what you're going to recognize about the song is this, well, one of the main things you'll recognize is this arpeggiated bass. I love this bass line. So this thing here happened by absolute mistake, right? I found this preset. Hey, Muna, where are you? There we go. So this happened by mistake. I found this preset that sounded like a spray can, and I put quite a bit of reverb on it. I did this pan situation, right? Which makes it go shum, 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 from left to right like that on like the half the bar. So it's like ching, 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 ching. It's so cool. It's like, it also gives so much groove to these drums. So if we just solo out, it like just adds that little bit more spice to the drum groove that I wouldn't have had normally. But what gives it that tone is actually this reverb over here. I don't know if you can see that here. Here we go. Are these two reverbs. First plate and a second plate reverb. Very, very cool sound. Let's move on. I want to talk a little bit about this bass. So this bass was actually quite tricky. Listen to that. There's like these artifacts happening, right? Like, it's very unnatural, very artifacty, which I really liked. It felt quite alien and quite spacey, but I really had to edit the shit out of it to make it work because it was just extremely unstable initially. I really liked it. I really wanted to use it, and after trying like a bunch of other bass lines, I kept coming back to this one, and so I just took the time to actually shape it and make it what I wanted it to be. And I'm so stoked that I did it because it's such a defining feature of the song. I mean, the song is actually quite simple. Aside from the drums, okay, it looks quite crazy because there's a bunch of drum stuff going on, but it's actually quite simple. It's actually literally just made up of one bass instrument, these this texture groove, and this thing that's just like relentless. I love this thing because it also felt like, feels techno. It feels like technology. It sounds like technology. Quite aggressive actually, like the I also like the way that it evolves. Listen to this part. Also, it's like screeching at you. It's like relentless. Also, it sounds like technology, like some technological being. And then these guitars. Oh my word. Okay. Initially, I wasn't gonna have guitars in the song. I built everything up, right? Aside from the staccato, I had the bass and I had everything else, and I was like, well, look, there's actually not a lot going on this song. Maybe I can get away with putting guitars in without it being messy. And what I'll do in my head, I was like, I'll keep the low end of the bass to kind of support the distorted guitar, and just cut out as much of the low end of the guitar as possible that makes sense without like the guitar sounding cuck, or the guitar sounding thin rather, because that's one of my biggest struggles when putting sort of a distorted guitar with electronic music, because electronic music generally speaking is so bass heavy. The electronic guitar can kind of share some of the space, especially in the low mid sort of mid range of the basses, and electronic basses are quite interesting sort of in the low mid range. It's quite tricky to sort of get it right, but in this track I was just like, you know what, whatever. I picked up my guitar and started playing like just literally the F note, right, or the F chord, the bar chord, and it sounded so freaking right. Like, it just made so much sense that I was like, you know what, let's keep it, right, but we'll cut the lows. Over here, you can see I cut out up to 200 hertz. I really liked it. It actually worked. Usually it doesn't work. Usually it makes the guitar sound so thin when you cut out so much of the low end. But you'll see, like, I recorded it like that. Literally just recorded it kind of in one take. And then I was like, okay, cool. Really happy. Let's record the second guitar to provide that width, that like body. And then you'll see that on the guitar channel over here, this bass over here, I cut out quite a bit of the lows. I know that this is not important to you, but when you listen to it on top of this bass, it just works so well, dude. So it's so rare to get distorted guitars to work with interesting basses like this. So it's great because like making this song kind of unlocked something for me. It like made me go like, okay, sweet. I know that I have now a setup of bass and distorted guitars that work well together. It's kind of allowed me the space to experiment with other tracks and experiment with distorted guitar. Heavy, like metal sounding guitar. It's bar chords, man. It's like deep and low. I mean, my guitar is in dropped C tuning, which is quite heavy and quite low. I'm playing these, you know, the bar chords over here, which is like these 3 strings. After the guitars came this staccato. And this is kind of when I knew I had a song. I was like, this is it. I've got it cracked. I've got an absolute banger. Like, it's exactly what I wanted it to be. It's sounding exact. It's getting the whole message across. It sounds like space. It sounds heavy. It sounds like transformation. It's the things that are kind of make Jeronimoh what Jeronimoh is kind of all came together. A little bit dark, a little bit beautiful, a little bit spacey, a little bit tribal with the drum grooves, a little bit heavy metal as well. So this is how I knew I had a song, man. This is how I knew that this was a track. Like once I figured this out, even this here. This is where the switch up happens over here. Like, yeah, baby, we're making like death metal techno, which is very cool. You'll notice that in this drop over here, things evolve, like the bass evolves. I wanted it to evolve to sort of like tie into that theme of transformation, like, and also just to keep the song a little bit progressive, you know, so that it grows into something, which is why this bass line exists, which I think is so rad. It's quite interesting. It's an interesting sort of like switch up change, right? Small, very like transformative. It's like evolving. It's like continuously evolving. It's quite hypnotic. You forget that this is a loop that you're stuck in, right? Because of the way that it evolves. By the time you get here, you forget that you're in a loop, so you can just keep going and going for a while. I mean, there is an alternate over here for the turnaround. Again, evolution, you know, it's evolving, it's changing, it's becoming something else. Another thing that I really wanted to have was a sort of like to give the track a driving feel, hence the 127 beats per minute. And to get that driving sort of peak time techno feel, I wanted to use that kind of running bass line on top of this bass line. And it's sort of more of like a mid, but it's ultimately a bass instrument, just with like all the lows cut out. It's like a mid bass, you'll see like this T is mooring XA with that driving bass. This is all that is, right? But when you play them together, it like sounds like something else. Now if we introduce the kick, now we in like peak time techno land. It's so hypnotic, it's so dark, it's so cool. This thing here is so rad, okay? This effect here. This is also from the guitar, right? But what I did, like also by mistake, everything was live, right? Like the whole the channel was live, so you know you could hear. And you shouldn't really do, like, you don't do it with the amps. You shouldn't have your amp live before you plug the guitar in. You should use, like, generally speaking, with an amplifier, and you can't see it, but it's there over there next to the couch. With an amplifier, you kind of switch it off and then plug the as good practice, plug the guitar in and then switch it on. Because if it's live and you send a signal through, you can pop a valve or something like that. But anyway, we're in the digital world, so I'm like a little bit more lax. Everything's live, and I'm going to plug the thing into the guitar, touched it, and it made this sound. It was like, so that's how this came about. So obviously I'm intentionally going zip, zip, but I didn't, you know, it happened by mistake. It was one of those things that happened by mistake. And I was like, sweet, that's a cool sound effect. Kind of ties the guitar in a little bit as well. So that's pretty much the song, right? Like that's the makeup of the track. There are a couple things, like this here is a vocal sort of blur. You can hear it's a vocal blur, right? You can hear my vocal there. That's just for effect. This is so cool. Also like spacey, it was a little bit space, a little bit techno feeling. Just to sort of like indicate changes in the arrangement, or like when things are happening, just to sort of break the tension, you know, because you're constantly building tension in the arrangement, and then when you make a change, you like release that tension to keep people going. Okay, let's talk about the break. The break is very, very simple. Super, super simple. I wanted it to be super simple because I was like, I want to sing more in my songs. I want to sing. I want my vocals to come through. I need to get over myself. I love vocals in music. And I was like, fuck it, and I have something to say. To keep in line with the idea of transformation is why I wrote the lyrics that I wrote and sang sort of the way that I did in sort of this, you know, that esoteric sort of ritualistic kind of chanting almost. Also quite dark. I duplicated this vocal and I brought the pitch all the way down. I made it a 7th initially. I brought it down to the 7th note and then I consolidated it and then pitched that down, which is what gives it that. Can you hear that? Like, it gives it that sort of like dark, alien, chanting kind of feel, right? And it is like, it's a kind of call to the world for transformation. So like, are you with me? All of us, let's do it, man. Like, you know, we've got to be more, we've got to be better. Got to be a bit better. I'm tired of watching it burn. Because yeah, I think it is like a sad state that we're in 2024 and people are still killing each other. Like, that's fucked. Like, we experienced an entire pandemic and people are still like, we're still as a human race killing each other. Like, that's fucking, how are we like still so asleep as an entire race of people that we do not value each other's lives above anything else? Like, human life should, and sentient life, the life of sentient beings, of creatures, should be valued above everything else. Above power, above money, above all of that stuff. So anyway, this song is sort of like my way of saying, cool, this is kind of what I'm about, because I'm about change, I'm about transformation. I can't help it. It's who I am. It's part of my makeup. We are constantly in transformation, and this song was like a perfect way to kind of get that message across from a very, very personal place in all aspects. I can sit here and we can dive into this for hours, but I would rather leave the rest of it up to your interpretation, because I'd love for you to grasp your own meaning from it. But yeah, so the point is that I kept the break very simple. You'll notice that there is no pad, there's no sort of like a chord. It's not very beautiful either. It's quite like weird sounding. I keep the bass in, which I very rarely do. But I kept the sound of Pluto, the stuttery Pluto. And this groove, because I really like the groove, kind of keeps the momentum of the song going. Where are we? There we go. So it kind of keeps you in the, even though it's a break and it's the quiet part, it kind of keeps you in that rhythm. It kind of keeps you wanting to move rather than being this big, beautiful, open thing. Still quite dark, but also quite relentless, you know? Like, the song's still going, even though it's a break. It's like, we're still here. I guess that's the prettier part, is the fact that there's a vocal. This is what the break is. And usually, like, my breaks can be a little bit more complex. There's a couple more things going on. Pads, I like to use pads. I like to use drones quite a bit. And I like to use, like, chords sometimes quite a bit. But in this one, I was like, let's just strip it all back, keep it dark, create as much space for the vocal as we possibly can. You with me. Beautiful, weird guitar effect. And this drop here is the first time you hear the bass like in its fullest glory. Love those cowbells so much. It's just like ode to victories, like definitely. I mean, ode to the cowbell. I mean, I've never made a song with cowbell in it, but like an ode to someone that I look up to. An ode to techno. My little ode to death metal, which is where I come from, you know, with this guitar. So that's the last thing that I can touch on, I guess. is these vocal chops. It's literally slices that I took out of, there was a lot more vocals in the song. If you look at my notebook, I wrote like quite a lot. It was very, very wordy. I had a lot to say. And I realized, like I sent it to a friend actually, and I was like, be honest with me, what do you think of this? But already in my mind, I was like, I feel like I'm trying too hard to say too many things, which is why I asked for the opinion of a friend. My friend came back to me and was like, it's very cool, but something about the vocals. And immediately I obviously knew what it was, you know. Usually when your gut speaks, you listen. And so I was like, okay, cool. What I'll do is I'll cut the vocals down to just this key sort of idea, which is a call to all my people, my tribe, whoever my tribe might be, because it's still growing. And I love you, all of you that are here with me. I fucking love you. Like it means so much. It like fuels me with so much fire. It's like it gives me almost something to like want to fight for. It's for my people, because I get so much strength out of that. Like and I get so much inspiration. I learn a lot about life and about all the things that I'm interested in through other people. So my tribe is very, very important to me. And this song feels that way. It feels quite tribal as well. Anyway, I chose to focus on that lyric, hone in on that part of the message. But I still recycled that from the other vocals. This. And it's so crazy because in the mix, you kind of know it's a vocal, but it takes you a little while to clock that it's actually a vocal, which I quite like. It's weird, right? Like that's so weird, but it works. It just works. So let's play from here. And it's very cool as a way to sort of nod to the fact that there's a vocal coming, right? Yo, these guitars, I mean, so this little bass filter that like makes it more aggressive, like growing, like it's cool. I dig it. And this recording of Pluto going. But yeah, so that's the track. That's how I made the track. I mean, it's not how, but that's like kind of an idea of the decisions that I made and why I made certain decisions. The sort of happy accidents. That for me is the most beautiful thing about making music, is when things emerge. Like I knew what the drums were going to sound like before I went in. Because I was like, I want that wait and think groove. I wanted it so bad because it was so inspiring. Like I need to have a groove like that. And I literally, like I outright, unashamedly stole the idea because it's so effective and it impacted me so deeply. I was like, boom, boom. How cool is that? I mean, look, it's out of context, but like that's the way that Wait and Think starts, basically. And it kind of sets the tone for the whole song. And it's like that, for me at least, aside from all the beautiful, wonderful things that happen in that song, that is what makes that song so powerful for me and so effective. It's like, because it just keeps coming back and it's like this reliable foundation for that whole song. And if you go and listen to that song, doesn't matter what happens in that track, when he comes back to the cowbell, the groove of that cowbell, it is so satisfying. My song is not Wait and Think. It will never be Wait and Think. I'm not Victor Ruiz. I'll never be Victor Ruiz. I don't want to be Victor Ruiz. But massive shout out to that homie for inspiring me in this way. And a massive shout out to him for the impact that he has had on techno and the music scene. And this is a bit of an ode to him. It's an ode to the part of myself that I want to be in constant transformation. It's an ode to my ruling planet. It's an ode to the planet that is literally the underdog of the the entire solar system, because Pluto is technically not a planet, and it's an ode to my desire for change on a massive scale, and it's an ode to my people, my future people, and it's an ode to the world, to all of you, anybody that is listening, anybody that listens, anybody that grasps any kind of meaning, even if it's just for a fucking rave, like a jaw, like just a fucking dance, you know, like that's, I think, to me is the most important thing. Is like, are y'all having a good time with this track above everything else? And yeah, that's my song. I've laid it all bare for you.